Welcome to Jazz Piano Skills. I'm Dr. Bob Lawrence. It's time to discover, learn, and play jazz piano. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this past week, diving into the harmonic structure of the classic jazz standard, September in the Rain. I love that tune. As always, we tackled many essential jazz piano skills, right? We looked at the form of September in the Rain. We checked out the standard chord changes for September in the Rain. We looked at the harmonic function of those chord changes found within September in the Rain. We also looked at common harmonic movement within the tune for ear training development. And of course, last but certainly not least, my suggested voicings, my left-hand shell voicings, as well as my two-handed voicings for September in the Rain. Right? Without question, a ton of information, but hopefully, this process of studying a tune harmonically is getting easier and easier each and every month. Since the start of the new year, we have, I think, solidified a three-tier approach to tune study. Step one is always a harmonic analysis, where we study the form, the changes, function, harmonic movement, voicings. And step two, that we're going to do today, always is a thorough study of the melody, a melodic analysis. And next week, of course, step three, improvisation. So we always break down a tune three ways: harmonically, melodically, and improvisationally. I think it's a logical and sequential order that allows us to successfully discover, learn, and play a tune. Now, I mentioned it last week and the week before and the month before and the month before that if you have been a faithful Jazz Piano Skills listener for the past 5 years, you've become rather intimate and familiar with the jazz piano skills that are needed to successfully begin studying a tune. And I've also mentioned that if you haven't been grinding along with us over the past 5 years, well, it's no big deal, no worries. Now is a great time to jump on board and begin developing and enhancing your jazz piano skills. And the fact of the matter is, the tune study that we do each and every month, the tune study will help you actually sift through and prioritize the last 5 years of podcast episodes so that you can begin maximizing your jazz piano skills immediately. So as I always like to say, right, it doesn't make any difference whether you're a jazz piano skills vet or a jazz piano skills rookie. You're in the right place at the right time to begin a jazz piano journey that's going to have a profound impact on your understanding of music and, of course, on your jazz piano playing as well. So today you are going to discover a melodic analysis for the great jazz standard, September in the Rain. And you're going to learn the melody, guide tones, fingerings, phrases, target notes for September in the Rain. And you're going to play 3 different melodic treatments of September in the Rain. We're going to look at a swing treatment, bossa treatment, as well as a ballad. So, regardless of where you are in your jazz journey, a beginner, an intermediate player, an advanced player, or even if you are a seasoned and experienced professional, you're going to find this Jazz Piano Skills podcast lesson, exploring September in the Rain, to be very beneficial. But before we get started, before we dig in, I want to, as I always do, welcome first-time listeners to Jazz Piano Skills. And if you are indeed new to Jazz Piano Skills, you're listening for the first time, welcome. I want to invite you to become a Jazz Piano Skills member. Your membership will grant you access to the premium content, not only for this podcast episode, but for every weekly podcast episode. And the premium content will help you thoroughly and correctly discover, learn, and play the jazz standard that we are currently exploring. And a whole lot more. Like, for example, as a Jazz Piano Skills member, you have access to the past, current, and future educational weekly podcast packets. Now, these are the illustrations, the lead sheets, the play-alongs, the backing tracks that I design and develop every week to help you get the most out of each Jazz Piano Skills episode. Now, you'll also have access to a self-paced and sequential jazz piano curriculum, which is loaded with comprehensive courses, all of the courses containing educational talks. There's interactive learning media, video demonstrations, and so much more packed into each and every course. You also have a reserved seat in my online weekly masterclasses, which are held every Thursday evening. And now, if you can't attend a Thursday night, it's not a good night for you, no problem. The masterclasses are recorded, and you can watch and rewatch the class, the video of the class, whenever and as often as you wish. Now, you also have access to an online interactive fake book that contains must-know jazz standards, all of them with excellent chord changes, chord-scale relationships. There's harmonic function analysis, listening suggestions, historical insights, and more. And as a Jazz Piano Skills member, you have access to the private online Jazz Piano Skills community, which hosts a variety of engaging forums. You can get out there and you can meet some new jazz piano friends, which is always a great thing to do. And last, and certainly not least, as a Jazz Piano Skills member, you have access to unlimited private, personal, and professional educational support whenever and as often as you need it. Now, all of these amazing privileges, these perks are waiting to help you discover, learn, and play jazz piano. So take a moment, check it all out at jazzpianoskills.com, and of course, become a premium member to begin enjoying premium content and all of the other perks that I just mentioned. Of course, once you get to the site, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me, contact me. I'm happy to spend some time with you, answer your questions, and of course, help you in any way that I can. Okay, so on to the question of the week. And this week's question comes from Robbie Olson, living in Henderson, Nevada. And Robbie writes, I am currently practicing solos from the Charlie Parker Omnibook and finding it very difficult to develop my jazz vocabulary for improvising. I am approaching it like I do classical pieces that I'm learning, practicing sections of the solo, writing in fingerings, working with the metronome, and so on. But I find that even when I have a solo under my fingers, it still feels awkward and honestly not very musical. What am I missing? As always, thanks for your help. I anxiously await your response. Well, Robbie, first of all, I got to tell you, I admire your gumption and determination. Wow. Tackling the Charlie Parker Omnibook is definitely diving into the deep end of jazz transcriptions, especially for pianists. So let's talk about a few things, okay? Number one, it's always a great idea to turn to transcriptions to discover melodic ideas and approaches for developing your improvisation skills. It's always a great idea, so you're spot on with that. Number two, it's always a great idea as a pianist to study transcriptions of jazz musicians other than pianists, right? Instrumentalists like Charlie Parker, saxophonists, trumpet players. That's a great idea. So you're spot on with that as well. And number three, it's always a great idea to be meticulous with your approach, just like you're doing, right? Breaking the solo apart, practicing sections, writing in fingerings, like you said, it's fantastic. Playing in time with the metronome. It's fabulous, right? So all of this, your hunch is right on. You're doing the right kind of things right here. But you have to keep in mind, Robbie, that not all instrumental melodic lines, especially saxophone lines for some reason, are not always going to translate seamlessly into a piano line, right? Like, after all, these melodic ideas are being played by a saxophonist on a saxophone, not a piano. So when turning to an instrumentalist for inspiration, which again, always a great idea, then I would just say do so cautiously and know that not everything you discover is going to be a natural fit for the piano. Again, right, we're talking about two entirely different instruments. Now, with that being said, I want to affirm your feelings. Playing solos from the Charlie Parker Omnibook is indeed difficult. That's in all caps, difficult. Right? Not only for you, but man, for everyone. Right? Now, the Charlie Parker Omnibook is it's very similar to playing Bach fugues, right? Similar in that there's no such thing as an easy Bach fugue, and honestly, there's no such thing as an easy Charlie Parker solo. So all that to say that your feelings are warranted and that you're not alone. It's hard, very hard. Funny, I can totally relate to you, Robbie, because I remember when I was encouraged, and I'm assuming you were encouraged as well, when I was encouraged to begin playing the solos of instrumentalists to improve my jazz vocabulary, to improve my articulation, to improve my phrasing. I did the exact same thing. I turned to the Charlie Parker Omnibook because, after all, right, he's considered by many people to be the best jazz musician of all time. So why not? My thought process was, well, why not learn from the best? Right? It makes sense, right? Go to the best. But I will tell you, the books that for me that really made a difference. As an aspiring jazz pianist trying to improve my improvisation chops, right? The books that really made a difference are the trumpet transcriptions by Ken Sloan. Trumpet transcriptions by Ken Sloan. Now, there are two books. It's called the 28 Modern Jazz Trumpet Solos, books 1 and book 1 and book 2. Now, these books contain solos, transcriptions by some of the greatest jazz trumpet players of all time. It's amazing, right? You got Chet Baker, Randy Brecker. There's solos in there by Clifford Brown, of course, Miles Davis, Kenny Durham, Art Farmer, Woody Shaw. I mean, just to name a few. And the solos, what's great, the solos can be played with or without the original recordings, okay? But I believe both of these books are still in print, and you should be able to find them rather easily by just simply doing an internet search. So my advice, Robbie, I would actually put the Omnibook down. I know that sounds crazy, but I would put the Omnibook down and I would get these trumpet books to help you develop your jazz improvisation skills. Now, the solos are much more, they're easier to learn. And honestly, they sound much more pianistic as well. So check them out and let me know if you have any questions. But again, that's the 28 Modern Jazz Trumpet Solos, books 1 and 2. But again, you are spot on with your approach. I would simply suggest starting with some other instrumentalists other than the great Charlie Parker to explore the art of improvisation. It's a great question, Robbie. I hope this helps a little bit. And as always, if further clarification is needed, please let me know. Do not hesitate to contact me. I'm happy to spend some time discussing this with you and help you in any way that I can. Okay, so every week I present my outline for studying and learning a tune. And again, I stress that genre makes no difference to me, right? It could be a jazz tune, a rock or pop tune, country or folk or R&B. It's no difference. And the way I approach it is always the same. Number one, I listen. I love listening to various artists, not just jazz musicians, various artists performing a tune. In fact, September in the Rain, you can listen to the Beatles. I mean, Beatles recorded September in the Rain. So check it out, right? So I like to listen to various artists. I tend to turn to vocalists first. Then I like to turn my attention to instrumentalists. And then, of course, I'll spend time listening to pianists. So number one, I always listen. After I listen, or while I'm listening, right, I'm determining the form of the tune. Every song has a form, whether it's a standard jazz form like AABA or ABAB, ABAC. every tune has a form. I want to know what that form is. As a pianist, I then turn my attention to the chords, the harmonic structures of the piece, and then, of course, the voicings. So I'm looking at the chords, common harmonic progressions like 2-5-1, 1-4-5, so on, and then I explore my voicings. Number 4, I learn the melody. I transcribe the melody. Right? I transcribe the melody. Always transcribe the melody using your ears. Do not turn to a fake book or a collection of music, written music to learn the melody. Always transcribe it, learn it by ear. And then finally, I like to explore various treatments of the tune, like we'll do today for September in the Rain. I typically I like to play through a tune using a traditional swing groove, a bossa groove, and a ballad. And we'll do that today. And then finally, like we'll do next week, I turn my attention to improvisation, improvising through the tune. So that's it, right? I listen, determine form, learn the chords, the voicings, learn that melody, explore various treatments, and improvise. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less, right? Now, last week, we focused on gaining a harmonic familiarity with September in the Rain. And so what did we do? We listened, we determined the form, we explored the chord changes, harmonic function, and voicings. This week, of course, we're turning our attention to a melodic analysis of September in the Rain. So our goal, as it was last week, as it is every month, right, every week, is to keep everything really clean and tidy with our approach. Whether it's scale study that we're doing or whether it's tune study, makes no difference. We want our conceptual understanding of everything that we do musically to be very structured and, quite honestly, to be simple so that it can be replicated over and over and over again. And you all that are familiar listeners to Jazz Piano Skills, you can attest to the fact that I've said it countless times, right, over the past 5 years, that if your conceptual understanding of music or any musical skill is not structured and simple, then it must mean that it's unorganized and confusing. And if it's unorganized and confusing, right, conceptually upstairs, you have absolutely zero shot of executing it in your hands downstairs on the piano. Therefore, it's so important that we keep our study, whether it's tune study or skill study, to be very structured, to be very simple, and be very replicatable. So the educational agenda for today is as follows. Number 1, we begin part 2, a melodic analysis to discover, learn, and play September in the Rain. Number 2, we are going to, of course, listen to a definitive recording of September in the Rain. Number 3, we're going to learn the melody of September in the Rain. Number 4, we're going to discuss the melodic fingerings for September in the Rain. Number 5, we're going to discover and learn and play the melodic phrases. We're going to look at the phrases found within the melody of September in the Rain. And then we're going to discover, learn, and play the melodic target notes of those phrases. So we're just going to continue to drill down a little deeper and deeper with this melodic analysis. And then, of course, we will play the melody that we have learned, that we have transcribed. We will take that melody and play that melody with the voicings that I introduced last week with the harmonic analysis of September in the Rain. And then finally, we will explore 3 different treatments of this standard, a swing treatment, a bossa nova treatment, and of course a ballad. So, as always, wow, we have a ton to get done in a very short, very fast hour. So, if you are a Jazz Piano Skills member, I want you to just take a few minutes right now, hit the pause button, and I want you to download and print your podcast packets. Again, these are the illustrations, the lead sheets, and the play-alongs that, as a member, grants you access to this content each and every week. So take time right now, hit the pause button. I want you to download those podcast packets. You want to have them in your hands as we listen to this episode today. And of course, you want to have them in your hands when practicing. So if you're listening to this podcast on any of the popular podcast directories, such as Apple or Google, I mean, there's a million of them, right? Pandora, Amazon, iHeartRadio. Then I would suggest just going directly to jazzpianoskillspodcast.com. jazzpianoskillspodcast.com, and you will find the active download links for each of the podcast packets in the show notes. Or you can log into your Jazz Piano Skills account and from your dashboard navigate to this episode where you're going to find one convenient link to download all 3 podcast packets in a convenient bundle. Okay, so now that you have your podcast packets in your hands, I want you to grab the lead sheets, and you should have 6 lead sheets in your packet. Lead sheet 1 provides you a great template for learning the melody of September in the Rain, using, of course, your ears, right? We're going to transcribe this melody, but lead sheet 1 is kind of a template with some cues from the lyrics to help you with your transcribing of the melody, right? And then lead sheet 2, if you take a look at that real quick, provides you with the melody of September in the Rain. So now you have the answer guide, right? So lead sheet 1 is kind of fill in the blanks, if you will, between the melody notes that are given to guides to help you. And then lead sheet 2 is a way that you can check your work, so to speak, right? The answer key. So lead sheet 2, nice lead sheet, clean lead sheet with the melody written out. Lead sheet 3 provides the fingerings, right? I have notated the fingerings that I would recommend for playing the melody of September in the Rain. Lead sheet 4 highlights the phrases that we're going to lock in on today to help us developing our phrasing and articulation of the melody for September in the Rain. And lead sheet 5 illuminates the target notes for each of those phrases, right? Especially the entry point and the destination point of those phrases. And then finally, lead sheet 6 combines the melody of September in the Rain with the left-hand shell voicings that I introduced last week with our harmonic analysis. So, right, no doubt about it, we have some invaluable tools in our hands to help us today discover, learn, and play September in the Rain. So, what's the very first thing we do? You got it, right? We listen. And, last week we listened, and again this week, and again next week, right? You know why? Because it's the most important thing to do, right? I've stressed it week after week that I can't even imagine trying to learn a tune without spending a lot of time listening to that tune. Again, it's the most important step of the entire process. Now, I mentioned earlier that I like to listen to vocalists first, then instrumentalist, and then pianist. So last week, we checked out a couple great vocal renditions of this standard, Julie London and Joe Williams, right? Just perfect. And this week, we're going to turn our attention to an instrumental treatment. And I've selected a version of this tune by one of my all-time favorite jazz musician, tenor saxophonist, Mr. Scott Hamilton. And this is from the album Live in Bern, Switzerland, recorded, I believe, 2015. And he's with the Jeff Hamilton Trio, which features Tamir Hindelman on piano. Tamir Hindelman, who is absolutely terrific. So, as always, what I want you to do is I want you to grab your favorite beverage. I want you to sit back and enjoy this swinging group. This is wonderful. This, again, Scott Hamilton, tenor saxophone, with the Jeff Hamilton Trio performing September in the Rain. Check this out. very, very tasty, right? Always, Scott Hamilton, always tasty. So if you are not familiar with Scott Hamilton, then I would encourage you to spend some time listening to Scott Hamilton. Everything he does is terrific and incredibly tasteful. In fact, he swings so hard. He's one of the hardest swinging jazzers that I know, right? Okay, so now let's explore those lead sheets. So I want you to grab lead sheet 1. Let's discover how to properly begin learning the melody of September in the Rain, of course, using... Thank you for listening to Jazz Piano Skills. The remaining premium content of this episode is available to Jazz Piano Skills members at jazzpianoskillspodcast.com. Visit jazzpianoskills.com to learn more about membership privileges and become a Jazz Piano Skills member. Thank you.